Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm Safna, and you're listening to Strategy Behind Success, a podcast where we explore how great companies grow, compete, and stay successful in an ever changing business world. In today's episode, we are taking a closer look at one of Sri Lanka's most recognizable companies, Cargills Ceylon PLC. Think about it for a moment. Whether you have shopped at Food City, enjoyed a meal at KFC, or bought a kissed fruit juice from a nearby store, chances are you have already experienced a part of the Cargill's business. But have you ever stopped to wonder how did one company become such an important part of everyday life in Sri Lanka? Was it simply because they opened more supermarkets, or was there a much bigger strategy behind their success? Exactly what we'll explore today. Together, we will uncover how Cargill's transformed from a small retail business established back in 1844 into one of Sri Now, every successful company has something that guides its decisions. Before looking at Cargill's strategies, it's important to understand what drives the company in the first place, and that start with its vision and mission. One thing that really stood out to me while reading the Cargill's annual report was that the company's vision isn't simply about becoming the biggest or the most profitable business. Instead, its vision is to be a global corporate role model in community friendly national development. I found this interesting because it tells us the Cargill's measures success differently. Yes, making profit is important, but the company also wants to create value for communities, farmers, customers, and the country as a whole. Its mission reflects this idea even further. Cargill's focuses on three key commitments: reducing the cost of living, enhancing youth skills, and bridging regional disparities. What does this vision and mission means from a strategic management perspective? It shows that Cargills isn't thinking only about today's business. It's thinking about where it wants to be in the future and how it can build long-term value. This is what we call strategic intent, having a clear long-term direction, continuously building the capabilities needed to achieve it. What's really impressive is how the company turned this vision into action. Instead of simply operating supermarkets, Cargill's expanded across the entire food value chain. It built relationships with farmers, established fresh collection centers, invested in manufacturing, strengthened distribution networks, and finally delivered products directly to customers through its retail stores. This is a classic example of vertical integration, where a company gains greater control over different stages of its value chain. At the same time, Cargill's also expanded into businesses like food manufacturing, dairy beverages, restaurants, and real estates. Because these businesses complement each other, this strategy is known as related diversification. What I like most about Cargill's strategy is that it balances business success with social impact. By supporting local farmers, creating employment opportunities, and making quality food more accessible, the company has built a strategy that benefits both the business and society. And that's what makes Huggies much more than that, just another supermarket chain. But even the best strategy doesn't operate in vacuum. Every business is influenced by what's happened around it. So next, let's look at external environment and see how we have seen where Cargills wants to go. But every successful strategy depends on understanding what is happening around the business. Markets change, customer expectations change, and unexpected challenges can appear in any time. To understand how Cargills respond to these challenges, let's briefly look at its external environment through the PESTEL analysis framework. First, the political environment. As a food and consumer business, Cargills is influenced by government policies related to agriculture, imports, taxation, and food safety. One of its strategic strengths has been build strong partnerships with local farmers, which supports national food security while strengthening its supply chain. Second, the economic environment. Sri Lanka's recent economic crisis created major challenges, including inflation, higher cost, and supply disruption. However, Cargills demonstrated resilience because it operates across multiple sectors such as retail, manufacturing, and restaurants. This diversification reduced risk and helped the company continue growing even during difficult times. Social changes have also influenced Cargill's strategy. Today, customers expect affordability, quality, and convenience. Cargill's responded by expanding food city outlets, developing trusted local brands, and strengthening connections with farming communities. Technology has become another important factor. The company has invested in supply chain improvements, digital learnings, and operational systems to increase efficiency. Environmental and legal factors are equally important. Since agriculture is central to its business, Cargills must consider climate change and sustainable sourcing. At the same time, as a listed company, it follows regulations related to food safety, labor practices, and corporate governance. Overall, Cargill's success comes from its ability to adapt. It does not simply react to changes in the environment. It prepares for them and turns challenges into strategic opportunities. Now let's move inside the company and explore the resources and capabilities that creates Cargill's competitive advantage. What makes Cargills difficult to compete with? So far, we have explored what is happening outside Cargills. But here's an important question. If every supermarket faces the same economic challenges and market conditions, why has Cargills remained one of Sri Lanka's leading companies for so many years? The answer lies within the company itself. In strategic management, the resource based view or RBV explains that companies achieve long term success by developing resources and capabilities that competitors cannot easily copy. Cargills is a strong example of this. First, there is its brand reputation. With more than 180 years of history, the Cargill's name represents trust, affordability, and quality. This strong brand identity is a valuable intangible asset. Second, its nationwide retail network gives the company access to customers across Sri Lanka and creates operational advantages to scale and efficiency. However, one of Cargill's strongest competitive advantages is its farmer supply chain ecosystem. Through fresh collection centers and direct relationships with farmers, Cargills has created a system where farmers gain better market access, customers receive fresh products, and company maintain a reliable supply chain. These relationships have been built over many years, making them difficult for competitors to imitate. Another important capability is manufacturing. By producing its own food and beverage products, Cargills gain better control over quality, cost, and innovation. Finally, the company invests in its people through employee development initiatives such as Albert A. Page Institute. Skilled employees help transform strategy into action. Using the VRIO framework, the farmer ecosystem and integrated food network stands out as Cargill's strongest resources because they are valuable, rare, and difficult to imitate. This creates a sustainable competitive advantage. So, the key message is simple. Cargill's success is not built only on supermarkets. It is built on a powerful combination of brand strength, supply chain capabilities, and manufacturing expertise and people. Now that we understand what makes Cargill strong internally, let's explore how the company competes in the marketplace. How does Cargill stay ahead of competition? So now we understand what makes Cargill strong internally, but having valuable resources only one part of success. The next question is how does Cargill compete and stay ahead in a highly competitive market? To answer this, we can apply Michael Porter's generic competitive strategies. Porter explains that companies usually compete through cost leadership, differentiation of focus strategies. What makes Cargill's interesting is that it combines cost leadership and differentiation to create a strong competitive position. First, let's look at cost leadership. Cargill's focuses on operational efficiency by working directly with farmers, managing its own manufacturing operations, building a strong distribution network, and purchasing at a large scale. These activities help reduce cost and allow the company to offer customers affordable prices while maintaining quality. However, competing only on price is not only enough. This is where differentiation becomes important. Cargills has built strong customer trust through its recognized brand quality products and convenient access to city outlets across Sri Lanka. Its farm to market approach is another important differentiator. By connecting directly with farmers, Cargills ensure fresher products, supports local communities, and creates a strong supply chain. Therefore, Cargills does not follow only one strategy. It follows a hybrid competitive strategy, providing valuable through both affordability and quality. Another useful concept is Fortis value chain. Every stage of Cargill's operations, from sourcing products from farmers, manufacturing, distribution, and finally reaching customers, create value. By improving each stage of this chain, Cargills create an advantage that competitors find difficult to replicate. So, the real reason Cargills stay competitive is not simply because it sells products. It has created an integrated business system that delivers value, efficiency, and consistency. That Now that we understand how Cargills competes, let's explore the major strategic decisions and growth moves that transform the company over time. So far, we have explored why Cargills is competitive today, but companies don't become market leaders overnight. Behind every successful business is a series of bold decisions, some risky, some innovative, and most importantly, well timed. So let's take a step back and look at the strategic journey that transformed Cargills into the company we know today. Cargill's story began back in 1844 as a retail business, but one of its biggest turning point came in 1983 when it introduced the first Cargill's Food City supermarket. At first glance, this might seem like just another supermarket opening, but strategically, it was much more than that. It marked a shift from being a traditional retailer to become a modern business focused on convenience, accessibility, and changing consumer lifestyles. This decision laid the foundation for Cargill's nationwide retail network. Then came another game changing decision. In 1999, Cargill's introduced its Fresh Collection Center model, working directly with local farmers instead of relying heavily on intermediaries. I think this is one of the smartest strategic decisions the company has ever made. Why? Because it solved multiple problems at the same time. Farmers received better market access and fairer opportunities. Customers received fresher products, and Cargills gained a more reliable, efficient, and higher quality supply chain. From a strategic management perspective, this is a perfect example of vertical integration, where a company strengthens its control over different stages of its value chain. But Cargills didn't stop there. Once it had built a strong retail network, it expanded into food manufacturing, producing its own dairy products, processed fruits, and beverages. Instead of simply selling products made by others, the company began creating its own brands. That means greater control over quality, stronger profit margins, and more opportunities to innovate. Another major milestone was entering the quick service restaurants industry through the KFC franchise. Rather than simply bring an international brand to Sri Lanka, Cargills adapted it to local tastes and preferences. That's a great example of local adaptation, taking a global business model and making it relevant to local customers. Today's Cargills operates across retail, agriculture, manufacturing, restaurants, and real estate. Looking at this journey, one thing becomes very clear. These weren't random business expansions. Every new step built on the strengths the company had already developed. In strategic management, we often use a ANSOF matrix to understand growth strategies. Cargills has applied several of these approaches over time, expanding its markets, developing new products, and entering related businesses. But what makes it growth successful is that each move complemented the previous one rather than pulling the company in a completely different direction. For me, that's the biggest lesson from Cargill's journey. Great companies don't chase every opportunities they see. They choose opportunities that align with their long vision and build on what they already do well. Now, growing into different business creates another challenge. How do you manage them all effectively? That's exactly what we'll explore next as we look at Cargill's corporate strategy and diversification. Why diversification works for Cargills. So far, we have explored how Cargills grew and expanded over time, but an important question remains. How does a company manage different businesses and make sure they create value together? This is where corporate strategy becomes important. Unlike business strategy, which focuses on competing in one market, corporate strategy focuses on deciding which businesses a company should operate in and how those company businesses can support each other. Cargills is a great example of this approach. Its businesses are not separate, they are connected through one integrated ecosystem. The journey begins with local farmers supplying agricultural products. These products move into manufacturing, distribution, and finally reach customers through food city outlets across Sri Lanka. At the same time, businesses such as FMCG products, dairy, beverages, restaurants, and real estate create additional value and revenue opportunities. This is called related diversification. Instead of entering completely unrelated industries, Cargills has expanded into areas that match its existing strengths such as food, retail, and customer relationships. The company also demonstrates vertical integration by controlling different stages of the value chain, from sourcing raw material to manufacturing, distribution, and retail. This creates several advantages, including better quality control, lower supply chain risk, and greater efficiency. Another important benefit is synergy. In simple terms, the different parts of business support each other. The retail network support product sales, manufacturing support supply, and the farmer relationships strengthening sourcing. This also helps reduce risk. If one business area faces challenges, other segments can provide stability. So, when we look at Cargills, we don't see separate businesses. We see one connected ecosystems where each part strengthens the other. And this integrated approach is one of the main reasons why competitors find Cargills difficult to replicate. However, even the best corporate strategy needs capable people to make it successful. So, next, let's explore how Cargills develops its people, capabilities, and organizational structures to execute its strategy. So far, we have explored Cargill's strategy, diversification, and business growth. But there is one important question: who actually turns a strategy into success? The answer is simple: people. A strategy does not execute itself, it requires the right organizational structure, skilled employees, and strong capabilities. In strategic management, Alfred Chandler introduced the idea that structure follows a strategy. This means that when a company expands into different businesses, its structure must also evolve to support that growth. Cargill demonstrates this by managing multiple business areas such as retail, manufacturing, restaurants, and real estate, while keeping them connected through one overall strategic direction. However, structure alone is not enough. Organizations also need capable people. Cargill recognizes employees as a strategic resource by investing in learning and development. A good example is the Albert A. Page Institute, which helps employees develop professional skills, leadership abilities, and industry knowledge. These investments create what strategic management calls dynamic capabilities, the ability of an organization to adapt and respond to changing market conditions. But behind every successful organization, there is another important element: leadership and culture. Throughout Cargill's journey, its leaders have shown a long term vision by transforming the company from a traditional retailer into an integrated food ecosystem connecting farmers, manufacturers, distributors, and customers. This reflects in transformational leadership where leaders inspire change, encourage innovation, and motivate people towards a shared vision. Cargill's culture also supports this strategy through values such as customer focus, continuous learning, innovation, and community development. What makes this culture unique is its focus on shared value creation, achieving business growth while also supporting farmers, employees, and communities. Competitors may copy products, prices, or store formats, but it is much harder to copy a culture built over decades through trust, relationships, and strong leadership. Therefore, people, culture, and leadership have become important strategic capabilities that support Cargill's long term competitive advantage. Now, the final question is: did all these strategies actually create business results? Let's look at Cargill's financial performances. Did the strategy actually work? Let's look at the numbers. So far, we have explored Cargill's vision, competitive strategy, diversification, leadership, and organizational structure. But now comes the most important question: did these strategies actually create results? Because a successful strategy is not only about having a good plan, it is about creating real value for customers, communities, and shareholders. Let's look at the financial performance. According to the latest financial results, Cargill's recorded approximately rupees 272.7 billion in revenue, showing around 12.7% growth compared to the previous year. This growth is significant because it happened during a challenging economic environment with inflation, higher cost, and uncertainty in Sri Lanka. Despite these challenges, Cargills continue to grow because of its strong business model and diversified operations. The company also improved its profitability with operating profit reaching around rupees 18.7 billion and profit after tax increasing significantly compared to the previous year. This shows that Cargill was not only increasing sales but also improving efficiency and managing costs effectively. Earlier, we discussed strategies such as vertical integration, supply chain strengths, and diversification. These financial results show the impact of those strategies in practice. Another important indicator is earnings per share or EPS, which increased from rupees 19.11 to approximately 28.3, creating greater value for shareholders. So, my overall evaluation is that Cargill's financial performance confirms the effectiveness of its strategy. These results were not achieved by chance. They are the outcomes of long term strategic decisions, strong execution, investment in people, and trusted relationships with customers and farmers. The biggest lesson from Cargills is simple. When strategy, people, and execution works together, sustainable performance follows. Now, let's conclude by looking at the key lessons we learned from Cargill's strategy journey. As we come to the end of today's episode, let's return to questions we started with. How did Cargills become one of Sri Lanka's most successful companies? After exploring its journey, the answer is clear. It was not achieved through one single decision, it was the result of many strategic choices working together. We saw how a clear vision guided the company's direction, how it adapted to changes in the business environment, and how it built competitive advantage through its brand, farmer relationships, integrated supply chain, and talented people. We also discovered that Cargill's diversification was not simply expansion, it was a carefully connected ecosystem where each business strengthened the other. Most importantly, the financial results showed that these strategies created real value through growth, profitability, and long term resilience. For me, the biggest lesson from Cargill's is this. Great companies do not succeed only because they respond quickly to change. They succeed because they build strong foundation, thinking long term, and consistently execute their strategy. And that is exactly what Cargill has demonstrated through its journey. Thank you for joining me on this strategic journey. I'm Safna, and you have been listening to Strategy Behind Success. Remember, behind every successful company, there is always a strategy worth understanding. Thank you and goodbye.